The things we think that seem like myths, seem to be only in our imagination, happen in real life. History has recorded mysterious and strange stories that have yet to be resolved conclusively. In this world, many strange things happen that we cannot expect. What if one day you get lost in a parallel world that seems familiar but completely different from the present? Everything from people, backgrounds to facilities has changed somewhat, mysteriously to the level of strangeness. Surely many people will not believe this happens until the case of the Spanish woman Lorena Garcia Gordo is known. A woman from a parallel world. On the morning of July 16, Lorena awoke to find that her bedsheets were of a different color. She was confused and disturbed at the fact that they were of a completely different set. It wasn't just the colors that were different. Not being able to come up with a rational explanation, Lorena decided to get ready and head to her office job. A job that she had been employed for the past 20 or so years. Her car was in the same spot she had left it the night prior. She got in and drove off, commuting down the same path she had grown accustomed to since moving into her apartment 7 years ago. Besides the bed sheets, everything else seemed normal for Lorena. That is until she arrived at her office. Inside the office building there were a few strange people she had not met before, but that didn't raise any flags. Lorena walked towards her own office only to discover that there was a different name tag on her office door. It wasn't her name. She then thought that maybe she had gotten off on the wrong floor of the building, however a quick look revealed that she was on the right one. She had gone to the right office, it was just that her name had been replaced. Lorena was confused. Had she gotten fired and no one told her? After 20 years of faithful work, this is how they let her know? She took out her laptop and connected to the company's wireless network. There she found that she was still on the company's roster, however it showed that she was under a different manager, in a totally different department. Her head was in a tailspin. She immediately checked her credit cards, driver's license, and work ID. They all reflected the right information as far as she knew. Same name, same picture, same numbers, and same home address. Not knowing what to think, she called her job and told her she was taking a sick day. The inconsistencies that morning made her think that something was wrong medically with her. She took the rest of the day off and headed straight to the doctor's office. There they ran tests on her, checking for signs of any illicit drugs in her system. The tests came back negative. She had no alcohol or drugs in her system. Lorena went back home and began going through her personal files. Bank statements, personal checks, bills. She double-checked them all. They all showed the right information. So a thought popped into her head. What if this is amnesia? What if something happened to me and I can't remember parts of my life? Immediately she logged online and began scouring the internet. She saw that the news and top stories were the same as the previous night, so there were no missing days. As far as Lorena knew, she had woken up living a slightly different life. It had been 6 months since Lorena had left her boyfriend of 7 years. She had recently started dating a man, Agustin, that lived down the street from her. They had been dating for only 4 months, however she knew him quit. Well, when she called her new boyfriend's number, someone else picked up. They told Lorena that there was no one with the name Agustin, or that matched her description living in that house. The news shocked her as she had spent the last 4 months getting to know the guy. She had even met his son and had started to develop a relationship with him as well. But now, there were no signs of her boyfriend and his son at all. As the day passed, she found more and more inconsistencies. She had no choice but to go into work the next day and pretend that she belonged. Still, Lorena called and called, but no one had heard of Agustin or his son. It was as if they never existed. That's when she learned that she had never left her ex-boyfriend. That they had been together since 7 years ago and there was no sign of them having ever separated. Lorena didn't know what to think. What had happened to the life she knew? What had happened to her career? Had she hallucinated it all? The one thing she thought was that maybe she had a nervous breakdown at one point. Severe enough to implant false memories into her head, or at least that's what she thought when she visited a psychiatric clinic. However, tests concluded that she was of healthy body and healthy mind. The doctors told her that maybe she was under a lot of stress and could have hallucinated it all. An explanation she had thought about but knew wasn't true. She set out to look for her boyfriend Agustin, but came back empty-handed. A hired investigator concluded that there were no signs of Agustin or his son in that city. Her own family thought that Lorena was going insane when she asked about her younger sister's shoulder operation. They looked at her with confusion as Lorena insisted that her sister had recently had surgery on her shoulder. A claim that no one in her family could back up. As far as her family knew, there had been no surgeries done to any member of the family. Days, weeks, and months passed as Lorena began to discover small but unnerving differences in her life. Clothing in her drawers and closets that she didn't remember buying, blog posts she had made weeks, even days before, were gone. Emails and chats were no longer archived in her computer. However, browsing through news sites and blogs, the world appeared to be the same. Just like she had remembered before going to bed that July night. As the months passed and no answers could be found, Lorena became convinced that she had simply just gone to bed one night and awoke in a parallel universe. A world in which her life had been altered by small decisions of her past. Having sought medical attention, Lorena knew that no one would believe her ordeal. So she did what anyone in her position would do. Make a post in an online forum about her ordeal and ask for help. So what happened to Lorena Garcia Gordo? Was she really lost in another world? A quantum physicist hypothesizes, this existence is produced by infinite universes. Each universe is like an infinite bubble, creating new universes. And these universes overlap. Physicists have also had glimpses of these realities in experiments, when tiny atomic particles have briefly disappeared and then reappeared. This can also be explained by the fact that the particles can travel back and forth between the two worlds. Finally, quantum theory realizes a symbiotic relationship between perception and the universe. In essence, the universe cannot really exist if that individual or mind is not aware of it. Consciousness affects quantum quantity in the human mind. And maybe it's a two-way street. The story of the green children. The title of this story may sound immediately implausible to the cynics amongst you, but surprisingly this is one tale of folklore which is probably founded on some basis of truth. The legend of the Green Children of Woolpit starts during the reign of King Stephen, in a rather tumultuous time in England's history called the Anarchy, in the mid-12th century. According to the account of the Green Children, a boy and his sister were found by reapers working their fields at harvest time near some ditches that had been excavated to trap wolves at St. Mary's of the Wolf Pits, Woolpit. Their skin was tinged with a green hue, their clothes were made from unfamiliar materials, and their speech was unintelligible to the reapers. They were taken to the village, where they were eventually accepted into the home of local landowner, Sir Richard Decane at Wilkes. The children would not eat any food presented to them but appeared starving. Eventually, the villagers brought round recently harvested beans, which the children devoured. They survived only on beans for many months until they acquired a taste for bread. The boy became sick and soon succumbed to illness and died, while the girl remained in good health and eventually lost her green-tinged skin. She learned how to speak English and was later married to a man at King's Lynn, in the neighbouring county of Norfolk. According to some accounts, she took the name, Agnes Barr, and the man she married was an ambassador of Henry II, although these details have not been verified. After she learned how to speak English, she relayed the story of their origins. The girl reported that she and her brother came from the land of St. Martin, where there was no sun, but a perpetual twilight, and all the inhabitants were green like them. She described another, luminous land that could be seen across a river. She and her brother were looking after their father's flock, when they came upon a cave. They entered the cave and wandered through the darkness for a long time until they came out the other side, entering into bright sunlight, which they found startling. It was then that they were found by the reapers. The story of the Green Children has endured for over 8 centuries since the first recorded accounts. In a 1996 article published in the magazine Analog, astronomer Duncan Lunan hypothesized that the children were accidentally transported to Woolpit from their home planet, which may be trapped in synchronous orbit around its sun, presenting the conditions for life only in a narrow twilight zone between a fiercely hot surface and a frozen dark side. While the real facts behind the story may never be known, it has provided the inspiration for numerous poems, novels, operas, and plays across the world, and continues to capture the imagination of many curious minds. Today, two green children become symbols of the village of Woolpit in England.